Hey folks, welcome back to my channel Relationship Haven. My name is Gary, and I hope you're having a fantastic day or evening wherever you are. In today's story, OP found out his wife had been cheating on him with her ex after OP discovered she had been taking Uber rides to meet with him. OP then gave her a surprise call when she was there, and told her he knew what was going on. Now she's moved out and is broke as a joke. In today's second story, OP found out that his wife is having an emotional affair after his dog showed him her Apple Watch that revealed shocking texts. Let's get into today's stories. A little backstory first. When I first met my soon-to-be ex-wife, she had mentioned her ex multiple times. The first date we ever went on had a moment where she got a call from him, and he was demanding that she pay her half the phone bill or he'd cut her off. She always told me stories about how he treated her. He was a severe alcoholic who barely kept a job and would beat her regularly. One time he burnt her with the cigarettes which left marks. Fast forward, we got married. And I still remember how good it felt holding her hand and putting that ring on her finger. I did everything for her. She couldn't drive, so I would always pick her up from work. And on the days I was off, I would take her to work as well. She often asked me to give her money for weed, which I did, as well as for cigarettes. On the day we got married, I took her off his phone plan and put her on mine. I paid for everything, including gas, rent, Wi-Fi, and the phone bill. I even drove her from Virginia to New York so that she could see her family. I was doing my best to get her to become a responsible person and get her back on track. She thought she had $2,000 in student loans, but later on we both found out that because she had put them off for so long, it turned into $22,000. I told her that when the time came, I would help her with that. A few days before her birthday in December, I noticed she was trying to hide a texting app from me. She then texted me and asked me to take her to the ER where she was diagnosed with the flu. That night, while she was in a drug-induced sleep, I took her phone and looked through it, then saw a text to her ex. Things about how much she missed him and that they wanted to meet up again. I went into a rage, and for the first time in our entire relationship, I raised my voice at her the morning after before I went to work. She promised that it didn't mean anything, then apologized for hiding it, and swore she was done with him once and for all. I was stupid to believe that, but we reconciled and went on. A few days later, I was still feeling bad for doubting her and drove her around to get things done before her birthday, such as paying for her nails and hair. I checked my bank app and noticed that on her account, she had 2 Uber charges as well as a charge at a 7-Eleven near her ex's place. I asked her what they were for, and she immediately got defensive. She mentioned how they were for a friend of hers that she helped get home. I was again stupid to believe her, but a little more wary, and asked her to look me in the eyes and promise me that she hadn't gone over to his place. She swore that she didn't. I asked her later that day if she could show me her Uber history, and she got even more defensive, accusing me of being paranoid just like her ex was. I then looked into it and discovered from her Uber history that she in fact did go over to his place. I confronted her with the knowledge I had of what she did, but was being as calm as I could. She instead went into a fit of rage and demanded to know why I went into her history, and that she wanted a divorce. We ended up not talking at all for a week or so, and eventually she swore to me that nothing happened when she went over to his place. Between then and last week, everything was fine between us, although I had noticed that she was friends with him on Facebook for a brief period. However, I remember that one day when I asked to look at her blocked list when I had parked my car, she got out of the car, then went behind the car and then came back in. I can't believe that she thought I was stupid enough to fall for that. After that incident happened, I enabled parental controls on my phone account and added a tracker so that I could see where she was every day. She didn't know about it because she was always making comments about how she didn't like anyone tracking her location, just like her ex used to do. After I got off from a 24-hour shift between Friday and Saturday, I texted her asking what was up and went home. She wasn't responding to any of my texts, so I checked the tracker and noticed that she was at her ex's place. I immediately jumped out of my bed and frantically found my clothes to head over there, and bait her into coming out. She said she went out the night previously with a friend and was staying over at her friend's place. I was leaning against a tree outside his apartment and then called her, telling her she needs to come home now so I can spend the day with her to make up for working 24 hours on Valentine's Day. The first thing that happened was that I yelled, "Staying over at a friend's place, huh?" And she screamed, knowing that she had been caught. She asked me for a ride home. swearing that nothing happened and that she just wanted to see him. I told her I wanted the keys to her apartment and her ring immediately. She had until Thursday to give me back her phone that I had paid for. Later on, she finally admitted that things did happen when she went to his place. She told me she cheated on me because she wasn't sexually attracted to me anymore, and mentioned how he does things to her body that she can't even explain. She then had the nerve to make a comment about how she liked that I cared for her and held her hand all the time. Her ex also later sent me a message on Facebook that said, "LOL, that was it. Our lives are pretty much almost entirely separate now." She never lived with me, so she's either staying with the ex or the place she was always at. I have the phone back and I'm working on removing myself from her bank account. I can track her spending still, and even though she got paid $600, she's already overdrawn the money mostly on Uber rides to go to work and probably on weed. I just don't know how to feel about this anymore. I was going to be the person to save her from herself. I did everything I could for her. I always tried to get her to be a better person and never raised my voice. She always told me I was a better person than her ex was. I don't have any feelings for her anymore. And if she ever asks to come back, I will definitely say no. All I want is that 3 a.m. call where she's drunk and begging me to let her come back after realizing she's messed up her life. But you've got to get yourself together, man. After reading this, you come off to me as a very passive individual. You let your wife fully take advantage of you. She basically used you as an ATM machine and then had some fun with her ex while she was at it. I'm sorry for what happened to you, OP, but to be honest with you, you gave her way too many chances, which was obviously going to backfire. I'm glad you finally came to your senses at the end, but you need to learn how to stand your ground much sooner, and not allow someone to walk all over you like your wife did. I hope you are able to heal from the situation, and continue to better yourself as a person. Now let's get into today's second story. I recently wrote a post on our divorce about how my new dog had serendipitously given me some information about my wife's emotional affair. I had been suspecting that something was up for a while, and when she gaslighted me and suddenly threw me to the side, I felt something amongst the sea of confusion, pain, sadness and doubt was suspicion. I don't like to admit it, but it has always been my goal to reconcile with my wayward spouse to give her space and respect and privacy. But today I broke that. I saw a message from a number I did not recognize, and its preview was too hard to ignore. Now for the story. We recently got a puppy. We, as in my immediate family, my wife and I moved in with my parents as she suggested we could live there and save money for us. It was a good idea and very forward-thinking on her part. I really didn't want to move, but I did it because she was my teammate and I felt like I could overcome it with her by my side. Our family dog passed away shortly after the wayward spouse and I moved in. Fast forward to now and we finally got a puppy. No clue where wayward spouse is, as she is mostly ignoring me. The puppy is honestly really annoying, and her teething makes her so chewy. Yesterday I hit the gym late. I had recently seen my therapist and a lawyer for a consultation that day, and it had me feeling anxious and depressed. When I returned in the late afternoon, I came home to see my wife's Apple Watch on the kitchen counter charging. My first thought was that she must be here, but she was not. So where did it come from? My grandmother came out with the dog and explained that the dog ran into my open bedroom and saw the watch. She carried it back to the living room where she chewed on it till my grandmother found her. The gummy sports strap-on an Apple Watch does look pretty sweet if you're teething. She took the watch and charged it, thinking it was my mother's. They have the same color and model watch. When I got home, the watch was alive. I was surprised as this thing had been missing for months, and I didn't find it till she left me and I moved rooms. I threw it in a corner of the room on a pile of the wayward spouse's mail and clothes. The dumb pup came in and grabbed it as it was so easy to reach. As I walked back to my bedroom, the notifications came in. The first text I saw was from a number I didn't recognize. It said, "Stockpiling for you, baby." Between my wife going no contact after suggesting that she wanted to work on our marriage, my suspicions and what this message said, it was very hard to not look. I opened it up and started reading messages and conversations were happening in real time. This wasn't her affair partner, but they talked about me. I saw her talk about me in ways that killed me. Her newfound online friends took her side and they all think I'm a controlling loser. The worst part is I suggested and recommended she hang with some new folks in this video game, because I didn't want her to feel trapped with me. She's not super social, so I always tried to get her to foster friendships. When she talks about me to these people, she refers to me as her ex. This entire time, I have been silently standing for my marriage, always referring to her as my wife. I was gutted so much for a serious attempt at working on our marriage. After basically finding out that my wife sees me as her ex and not her reconciliation partner, I tried to sleep but couldn't. Waves of anxiety and pain washed over me in long successive crashes. I started to cry. And that's when the late-night text from him came in. How much worse can it get? So I read them. It showed a guy who obviously had feelings for her, delegating care and calling her pet names like baby or babe. I've seen them talk late into the night. She's been overprotective of her phone lately, and our bedroom has been dead. So this made sense. I have no clue if things have gotten physical with them, but at this point it doesn't matter. They care about her and approach her in a way that it did. It looks just like how we looked when we first started. So much of what I thought I knew was lost. So much time wasted, 6+ years, ups, downs, and as much love as I could muster and nothing to show for it. Those who are currently in it. How did you deal on the first day after a month of being too stupid to see the light? I feel like I have jumped back to square one, day one. What were your first few days like? Did you confront or did you wait? OP, what are you doing? Why are you trying to reconcile here with someone that obviously doesn't care about you? She is actively cheating on you, at least emotionally. And it is time for you to put an end to this once and for all. You deserve someone that loves you and respects you. I would look into hiring a lawyer so that this process can be over with. If I were you, I wouldn't confront her. Gather all evidence, then get ready to make copies of the evidence and submit them to all her family members because they should know the truth about who she really is. Also, there is nothing wrong at all with snooping, especially if your partner has given you every reason to be doing it in the first place. You shouldn't be apologizing for wanting to make sure your spouse isn't cheating on you. Also, take it as a sign from the universe that out of all ways to find out your wife is cheating, your own dog happened to be the one to show you. You know what you need to do from here, OP. Best of luck to you. Thanks for taking the time to listen to today's stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and comment below on what your thoughts are on today's stories. If there's a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me. Jessica, 33, and I, 35, met while in school at Brown University. It was like finding my other half. We both had dreams of impacting the world and making it a better place by becoming medical professionals. She wanted to be an ER nurse while I wanted to open my own practice. We had a lot of common interests and truly enjoyed each other's company. We got married 2 years after dating, and the wedding was a fairy tale. All our friends and family had the time of their lives, and I met her childhood friends and had my best friend Eric, who I had known my entire life as my best man. Life couldn't have been better, and our honeymoon in Aruba was full of blue skies, clear water, and white sand beaches. Once I graduated from med school, we moved back home to Akron and got the house of our dreams. 6 bedrooms, a glorious pool, and a garden that she was so proud of. We began thoughts of having a family and started to talk about having kids. Joseph and Kate, our fraternal twins, were born shortly after that. The joy of having children was something that I never thought I could experience, and Jessica truly shined through her parenting skills. Fast forward to 6 months ago. My practice was booming. Joseph and Kate were 5 and enrolled in the private prep school of our dreams. Life was finally feeling like it had a plan, and I couldn't be more content. That is until Jessica started getting called into the ER for extra shifts because of the nurse shortage. Her shifts kept getting longer and longer. As time went on, I started to feel like she was spending more time working than at home with us. Around this time, I noticed that Jessica seemed to have more perfume and makeup on than usual. She would be in a rush when she left the house and came back late from her shift and slipped into bed. When I asked her about it, she said that her patients needed her, and that she had to fulfill her duties. I thought it was strange but just figured she was super dedicated to her job since that's the kind of person she is. One evening, I secretly hired a nanny to watch the kids and got in my car and followed Jessica to work. As I watched her walk into the ER, I noticed that instead of taking a left and going to her station, she took a right and entered the cafeteria. I was so curious that I decided to follow her. And then that's when I saw Eric, my best man and lifelong friend, who was an ER doctor. I told myself that they worked together, and this was nothing out of the ordinary, but what happened next had my heart racing. Eric told her that his shift was almost over, and that they would slip out quietly and head to the hotel. Turns out that she didn't have a shift to work that night, and Eric and her would be evaluating each other's bedside manner. The worst part of it all was that Eric had been married for 10 years and had 3 beautiful children. I was so angry I wanted to confront them both, but couldn't brave myself to do it. Instead, I got in my car and followed them to the hotel. Once I got there, I found out which room they were in and proceeded to wait in the car for another 30 minutes. At that point, I went into the hotel, up the elevator, and stood silently outside of their room. I pressed my ear to the door to hear what was going on inside, and what I heard made me sick. Let's just say it sounded like a disturbed version of the game Twister. What I thought was a beautiful love story had become twisted. How could the woman I married and the man I trusted pull something like this? I then walked away, still not able to process the truth of what was happening. As I got to the end of the hall, I heard Jessica scream out, "I love you," and my stomach dropped. I drove home, and at that moment knew that my life had just changed forever. How could something so pure be turned into something so disgusting? The logical move was to confront Jessica, get her side of the story, and go from there in a civil way. But something in me must have broken when I felt that betrayal, and I decided to go about it in the most vicious way possible. I developed a plan to completely ruin the lives of both my wife and my double-crossing best friend. All the pieces were in place and both had a huge amount to lose. In the end, I'd be out of a marriage, but at least I could have the satisfaction of knowing that justice had been served. The next morning, I quietly put on my coat and walked out of my house without a word to anyone. I knew the kids would be in school for the next 7 hours, and Jessica would be at work with Eric all day. I first wanted to let Eric's wife know exactly what was going on. I called her and told her everything, which I figured would result in her calling Eric to confront him. Word must have spread quickly because 30 minutes later, Jessica began calling me. I missed 5 of her calls because I had decided to go to the HR department of the hospital where her and Eric worked and told them everything. Given that there was a strict no relationships policy, it was a huge violation of their contracts. They thanked me for the office. At that point, all the pieces were in place, and the fireworks were ready to go off. For the first time since hearing them in the hotel room, I felt a smile spread across my face and a sense of justice penetrating my soul. When I arrived home, Jessica was standing in the driveway crying hysterically, shouting that she was sorry. I confronted her saying that I had a very busy morning, and pretended to not know what she was talking about. As I asked her what was wrong and comforted her, her crocodile tears suddenly stopped. She looked at me with an expression of disbelief that I had gone about this in such a twisted manner. At that moment I winked at her and said, "I am a doctor, and I believe that this treatment plan is the proper course of action." The tears started flowing again, and she chased me into the house, continuing to apologize. She begged to explain her side of the story in a frenzy. I was just about to give her the chance to elaborate when her phone rang. It was her dad, and little did she know that the games were just beginning. All I heard for the next 10 minutes was her father yelling at her about how she had no loyalty. Little had she known that I sent the audio recording to her parents as I pulled up to the house, and they happened to love me and the life that I had provided for her and the children. While her father screamed at her, I got a phone call from Eric, who was furious at me. He swore up and down that nothing had happened and that I was totally wrong, and at that moment I sent him the audio recording as well. His wife had already heard it, and he did not stand a chance. The anger began to give way to a tearful apology from him, and he knew that his marriage was over, and that he would lose custody of his children. I signed off asking him if slapping my wife's butt was worth the price he had paid, and he silently hung up. I then walked over to her and told her that I would be taking full custody of the kids and that I had bought boxes and rented a U-Haul for her to pack her things and leave. She told me that she had nowhere to go, as her mom and dad were furious with her. I replied, "That's too bad, but you should have thought of that before you decided to screw around on me." I suggested that she stay at Eric's, but then remarked that he was kicked out of the house as well. At that point, I asked her to start packing and took a deep breath as she slowly walked away, completely defeated. On the way out, she made a few attempts at reconciling, but I stood firmly and without hesitation. I had won the battle, and there was nothing more to be said. With her head hung low and tears streaming down her face, she walked out of the house, loaded up the U-Haul, and asked if she could change into her work uniform before she left. I told her that wouldn't be necessary, as if she looked at her messages, there should be one from her supervisor that said she was suspended. Sure enough, she checked her messages and started bawling even harder. I walked into the house with a nostalgic feeling of justice penetrating my soul. Later that evening, I would find out that Eric's wife had kicked him out and filed for divorce, in addition to going after full custody of their children. I guess some justice really does exist in this world, and it's a beautiful thing. Jessica and Eric were terminated from their jobs, and they decided to rent out an apartment. Last I heard, the trauma of being found out caused them to break up and they split. Jessica reached out to her parents, but they cut off all communication, which led to her having to live on her own and struggle. The house, the kids, along with a chunk of Eric's savings and future retirement funds were taken from him in the divorce settlement. As being involved with coworkers is like a scarlet letter in the medical field, he was forced to move out of state and started an auto shop. He's still bitter and says he'll never forgive me, but I couldn't care less. I currently am doing amazing. The kids are growing up so fast, and having them around is a blessing. I've been able to pay off my debt, and the practice is booming. They see Jessica every other weekend and have supervised visitation with a court-appointed individual. Life is never perfect, but if you work hard and do the right thing, things will eventually work out in your favor. To all those out there who have been wronged by your partner, don't give up and never forget the power of justice. Doing the right thing is supposed to be the best option, however, it doesn't give you the warm and fuzzy feeling that completely getting even does. I am not advocating that you come up with an elaborate plan to even the score, but in the moment when your face feels flushed and hot, and a tingling sensation runs up and down your spine, you might just do the same thing. OP, talk about a bloodbath without a finger being laid on anyone. I would say the moral of the story is not to double-cross your husband when they are a doctor. Doctors are smart, and it makes me wonder if the person who posted this story may have been a surgeon, because that was justice delivered with the precision of one. Overall, OP got it right. I can't believe how nasty his wife was to have kids, a perfect life, and a loving husband, and then rip OP's heart out by cheating with his best friend. As far as OP's friend Eric goes, I cannot believe how disgusting this guy is. He needs to take a long look in the mirror and realize he has no loyalty in heart. Serves him right for being outcast by the entire medical community. Thank you for sharing this wonderful story with us. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. Hey folks, welcome back to my channel Relationship Haven. My name is Gary and I hope you're all having a lovely day or evening wherever you are. In today's story, Opie found out that his wife of 25 years cheated on him after she left the house and claimed she was going out for drinks with her coworkers. His wife then never returned until late afternoon the next day. Opie then confronted his wife, who told him the shocking news about what happened the previous night. In today's second story, Opie found out his wife cheated, then immediately left a goodbye letter on the table for her to let her know that he found out. Now let's get into today's stories. So last week my wife told me she was going out for drinks with a female friend from work. They go out once a week or so, multiple times a week on occasion. A little background: we have been together for 25 years at this point. My wife dealt with pain pill addiction for many years. She spent the last 15 or so on another addictive med that kept her out of withdrawals. She recently got off of that and has taken to drinking all day now. She has admitted to me that she slept with her ex-husband not long after we met, but not to anything else. She told me before about all the time she cheated on her ex, and that she would take it to the grave before she ever admitted it to him. She only told me about sleeping with him to hurt me at the time. Anyway, there is another guy that is actually the father of her niece that she had a relationship with before he got with her sister. I know this and have known for years because I saw their emails. At that point she felt compelled to tell her sister about their relationship, so that she didn't find out on her own. She felt that it would be too hurtful to not address it, and that if I ever learned the full extent of it, I would leave her and take our kids. I've asked her about it before and she has always denied it. Fast forward to Friday morning. She leaves the house in the morning to go to work. She reminds me that she's going for drinks with her coworker, and that she may be home late, but probably not. She claims to have a hard time being around her coworker for too long, because her energy is too high. Around 4:30 she sends me a pic by text of the two of them and says that they are having a couple of drinks at her house and then they're going out. I acknowledge her message and tell her to have fun. Around 8 hours later, she sends me another text saying that they are going to her house for a couple more drinks and to watch a movie. Again, I say okay and tell her to be careful, and I go to bed. I wake up around 9 o'clock in the morning and she never came home, so I send her the wow text, to which she doesn't respond. She read it but didn't reply. Our kids are worried. I already checked the local county arrest record just in case she got stopped for a DUI. Nothing. I don't hear from her until she staggers in the house at 4 in the afternoon. She comes in and lingers by the door where I can't see her for a minute before she goes into the hallway bathroom, which she never uses, instead of walking the 10 steps past me to the master bath and our room. When she does enter the room, she doesn't even look at me and has her back to me for the most part. When she does finally speak to me, she says, "Why are you looking at me? Go back to watching your show." At this point, I tell her that I expect her to account for herself and why she's been MIA for so long. She then tells me that her and the coworker went to the bar, went home, watched 50 Shades, and she then passed out. When she woke up, her coworker had left her in her house by herself and went to her boyfriend's house. At that point, she came home. She said all she had to drink was 3 Bloody Marys and a shot of tequila the night before. This is a lie. I'm sure, because she was still drunk. When I pressed her, she went into the bathroom again for several minutes after just using the bathroom less than 5 minutes before and telling me she stopped at the gas station to use the bathroom during her 5-minute ride home. I asked her repeatedly to tell me the truth because I didn't believe the story, and she refused. She claimed that she would never lie or cheat, so I called her out on the other guy, her sister's ex. She told me that all they did was kiss, and I told her that I didn't believe that because she has tried too hard to hide it, and that wouldn't justify me leaving her and taking the kids. I pointed out that her lie and behavior are what was making me doubt her about telling me the truth. I then asked why she was still drunk if she had so little to drink, and why she was so tired if she had gotten nearly 10 to 11 hours of sleep, because if she just got home, she must have left her friend's house around 3:30. In an attempt to convince me she was telling the truth, she offered to show me an email from the sister's ex talking about how they never had sex, which blew me away. Of course, that stream had been deleted, but I did see where she sent her friend a text before noon that she had woken up and left to go home 4 hours before she arrived. She told me that she didn't know what time she left, even though the text did. Then she said that her only stop on the 10-minute path home was a Citgo gas station because she didn't feel well, so she passed out in the parking lot in her car. This is BS because she texted her work friend again at 2:30 to tell her that she had a great time last night and that she would talk to her later. I continued to ask her where she had been and what she had been doing, to which she offered that she bought $25 worth of cocaine, which gave her about 3 lines, and she was afraid to tell me. I told her that that still didn't explain what she did the night before, and where she was for the 4 hours between leaving her friend's house and getting home, or why she was so tired if she had gotten so much sleep, and finally why she was still drunk the following evening. Her response was, "If you don't believe me, I don't care." At that point, I dropped it because I obviously wasn't getting anywhere, and she proceeded to sleep for like 10 hours. While she was asleep, I went to Citgo and gave them a story about her car being hit while she was parked there not feeling well, and asked them to review the tape, but there was no sign of her car sitting in front of the store for 3 to 4 hours. The next day, she apologized for anything mean she may have said, and that she drank too much since all the time from leaving her friend's house and getting home 4 hours later was gone. She also offered me sex, which she never does, but has said nothing else about it. Today, Monday, it's obviously still on my mind, and she asked me what now, and I didn't respond. I'm not stupid, so it seems obvious to me that there were some activities going on that she doesn't want me to know about, especially since she threw out cocaine to try and get me to stop questioning her. I figure with that tactic, the rest of her night must have been a doozy. OP, here are my thoughts on the situation. To me personally, it sounds as bad as you imagine it to be. Here are the steps I would take if I were you. First, send her to her parents or any close family and explain to them why you're sending her to them. Then take this time to find her coworker's contact info, without getting it from your wife. Contact her and get the exact details of the night together, and when they both departed from each other. After that, request your wife to write down a precise timeline of the missing hours, as well as let you know who her drug dealer is. Chances are, if she has a regular dealer, she could be exchanging services for the product. The last step is she needs to get an STD test and tell you the results. I wish you the best of luck, OP. Now let's get into today's second story. I am writing this as a bit of journaling exercise and maybe for some support from people who have been through the same. Thanks for being so welcoming. We have been together since 2015 and early on I planned for this to be a lifelong relationship. It was rocky along the way, and this is part of the reason I never managed to propose. However, there is still a very mature ring fund which will go somewhere else now, I'm sure. Around 2019 I began to think that maybe our relationship was not going to be like I had imagined it. We fought a lot, nothing physical of course, just disagreements and mutual pouting and discontent. Our sex life dropped off significantly after 2016 for medical reasons and it never really seemed to recover. In June of last year we had a big discussion where she said in many words that I did not satisfy her. I had never satisfied her and the thought of me in bed made her sick. It was very upsetting at the time and in hindsight I should have called our relationship then, but we decided initially that we would try to work our way through our problems, and we also ended up having a 4-month COVID lockdown shortly afterwards, so I didn't want to throw her onto the street or anything. Around September I discovered she had been sexting some guy overseas, a total breach of trust, but I decided I would bracket it because there was nothing physical, and even though we never discussed it openly I thought she knew that I knew. I never approached this directly, but we eventually decided we would go to couples therapy. I discovered yesterday that she slept with another man in November last year while she was out of town on a short holiday. Some random she met online and I presume she had been chatting with for a few weeks at least. I didn't care to ask for the exact date, but it was either shortly before or shortly after our first couples therapy session. When she went to work today I left a note on the table saying goodbye, packed a bag and went to my parents' place for a few days. This evening after she came home we had an hour-long text-only discussion where she took responsibility for everything, promised to change and asked if I would come back. I appreciated her honesty. I believe everything she has said. This is completely unlike her, something she acknowledged, and she is affected by both mental illness and gruesome sexual trauma as a child and young adult. But I said that this was a hard barrier for me, and I would not consider coming back even if we continue to see couples therapy for this issue. I said I would consider going back to our therapist to work through the breakup process as we had discussed this previously in one of our sessions and I can see how it could be helpful. It is also something our therapist has worked on. Even if we could make our way past this and she found a way to fix herself, it would always be a part of our past and something I would never be able to reconcile myself with while we were in a relationship. I don't fully believe that there has only been one other man. I asked how many other people she has had sex with during our relationship and she said one, but I think this might have been a very strict definition of sex and that she has been emotionally and physically cheating with several other men over at least the past 6 months and even up until now. She said that this is a part of her life that feels like it's without consequence. And although that is obviously wrong, I can understand what she is saying. Anyway, the number doesn't matter. One is one too many. I feel very dirty for how I found this all out, especially since I was going by a gut feeling, but I feel partially vindicated by my gut being right. I don't know if I can shake this feeling of shame for having been able to discover this, even though it is for the best that I know and that we separate. I will likely be moving my appointment with my own therapist forward a few weeks to help with where I go from here. I don't quite know how she moves on from this, but I am trying my best to focus on myself. I don't know what I will do with myself yet because so much of who I am, what I do, what I'm like revolves around what we were. I picked up my guitar for the first time in a few months and couldn't do much with it. I don't play as much now because I felt embarrassed playing around her. Not her fault. She was always very encouraging of all my creative pursuits. I have a few friends, but I am both a very reserved person and also someone who gets lonely easily. I might need to house share because I don't know if living alone is a good idea for me right now. I did say that I hope we can be friends one day, and I really do. Besides the infidelity and our other problems, she's great and we did gel in a cool way. But in my heart it doesn't seem likely, at the very least. As soon as either one of us starts seeing someone else, unless they're super chill, I don't think it's going to work. I've decided that I'm not going to be super candid with other people about the circumstances of our breakup. There's no need to be, but it's something that I would mention to a future partner, and I can imagine for them that it would be a bit weird for your partner to be friends with their ex who is also a cheater. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it, as she will likely move to another city, and we won't have much opportunity to see each other again anyway. Anyway, that's my story. There were times this morning when I thought I might try to just let it slide and forget about it, but I'm glad the part of me which stood fast won over, because there was really no future knowing this. It would always eat at me. I don't know what the future holds, and I am truly scared because I have had struggles with alcohol and smoking in the past which my partner really helped me to temper. I stopped smoking as a condition of getting together, which I'm grateful for, maybe with a sneaky cigarette every now and then at the pub, and I don't have that anymore. I have made a short list of things for me to try to do with myself for the next 4 weeks and have committed to not buying any spirits at all for now and only smoking if I go out and someone offers. I don't go out often, so this is generally sustainable for me. If there is anything any of you have done to get past the first few weeks and months of your breakup due to infidelity, I would certainly appreciate any advice. Opie, I am very sorry to hear what you're going through. I noticed that earlier in your post it sounded like you were trying to justify why your wife cheated on you by bringing up childhood trauma and things like that. The truth is, those things should never be used as an excuse for why someone cheats on you. She made the decision to cheat on you and now has to live with the consequences. Also, not sure why you want to have her remain in your life as friends. That wouldn't be a wise decision at all. If you did that, you would never truly be able to get over what she did and realize how she completely destroyed your marriage. Please wake up, OP. Now let's see what the comments had to say about the situation. Substantial 210 said to allow yourself to be abused like this and effectively enable her means you really need to get into individual counseling. Why do you want to be friends with the person that killed your marriage? There's nothing noble in that. Cut her out of your life and cauterize the wound. She took a dump right in the middle of your plate. For the love of God, show a little dignity and rinse her from your life. OP responded by saying, I did say to her when we had our long text conversation last night that I only have 2 hard uncompromising boundaries or conditions about who I share myself with in a relationship, which is that I won't date a fascist and I won't date a cheater. I guess I thought the no dating a cheater one was universal and didn't need to be stated explicitly. She explained that she had rationalized it as us being in a state of a failing relationship where this kind of activity is agreed upon, which I can comprehend but obviously cannot accept and reject completely. Although I am very sad at what I've lost, and all the potential of what I could have had if this hadn't happened, I'm feeling better than I thought I would. I still feel ashamed for how I discovered all this, but I'm mostly leaving with my head held high and feeling blameless because my gut was right. If I had left because we couldn't figure out our mutual problems, I would have been crushed with guilt and shame, but as it stands, I just don't feel either in any great quantity. I have plenty of growing to do before I date again, though, including how to respect both my and my partner's boundaries, and how to spot the red flags both early and well into a relationship. Thanks for taking the time to listen to today's stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and comment below on what your thoughts are on today's stories. If there's a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me. Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all having a wonderful day or evening. Today's story features some instant karma. OP found out his wife went to a hotel to meet up with her affair partner, but after they did the deed and she was planning on leaving, her car ended up dying. Now his wife is begging for mercy and reconciliation after she recently ended up in serious debt and knows her affair partner can't help her. In today's second story, OP found out his fiancée cheated on him and needs advice on how to proceed. Now let's get into today's stories. This is my first time posting on Reddit, so I'm going to do my best. I don't know the acronyms yet. I'm trying to learn them all. If my writing and story is all over the place, just know I'm going off the top of my head in thoughts and emotions right now. Sorry. To start, I'm 31 and my wife is 28. We have 2 kids, ages 7 and 5. My wife asked me for separation August 27, 2020. She left that day and was apparently living with her mom. The day after, I got messages from her cousin saying that she had been cheating on me. My wife claimed she never did up to this day. A week after, we met up to do a Zoom meeting on her phone to meet our son's teacher online. She got a Facebook message saying something like, only a few hours, eggplant emoji, peach emoji, sweat emoji. After the meeting, I asked her if she could explain that, and she said she didn't want to talk about it, and that she had deleted the messages already. She said it was a girlfriend of hers because she was going on a date, and apparently girlfriends get excited for each other and think they're just going to get laid, which I obviously didn't believe at all. I got really upset and told her to leave. Around Thanksgiving, October for us in Canada, she told me she was taking the kids to another city to visit her grandparents and go swimming for Thanksgiving. She ended up lying and actually went with our kids and this guy she apparently cheated on me with and stayed in a hotel. On their drive back, the car engine blew and died. The same car she fought me for and owes almost $12,000 on and still makes payments on every couple weeks. This is when I started to believe in karma a little bit more. Between September and November, my wife and I drank together and had sex around 5 or 6 times. I still wanted her back and I really wanted to have sex with her. The part that I'm realizing now is that she had been seeing this guy for a while. I found pictures of them about a week and a half ago. Ever since I saw those pictures and confirmed things, I've stopped talking to her. I just wanted to believe all of her lies even when they were obvious. So, she cheated on me, left me for him and was cheating on that guy with me. Just 2 weeks ago before I found out for sure. She came over and we talked. She let me feel her up and give her a full body massage and everything. Right now, I can't even fathom what has been going on in her head. Some other extra facts. The kids are doing well. My apartment is spotless and I've lost 50 pounds since she left me. 235 pounds down to 185 pounds. She came to my place a couple of times and has cried to me about how it's so unfair that I'm doing so much better than she is. She said it wasn't fair that I was doing all of this now and not when we were together. She told me she still loved me on Christmas and bought me Christmas gifts. Not just junk, but because she knows how much I want to visit Japan and how much I enjoy making ramen and such. So she put thought into it. I don't mean to sound rude, but she doesn't look very good nowadays either. She put on weight and went hard into drugs and drinking. She told me she cries all the time. She told me she was depressed with me. Left me thinking it'd be better, but is still depressed, and that messes with her. But as we know, happiness comes from within and she has none. So, if you left me for someone else, at least be happy about it and make the best of it. She hasn't texted me for 4 days now. That's the longest she hasn't texted me in 4 months. She told me before when we were together that if she ever left, I would fail. When I started a job working in a kitchen, I started as a dishwasher and she said I would never make any friends. Apparently, she forgot how social and good with people I am. All the waitresses loved me and I moved from dishwasher to working on the line and then was asked if I'd want to bartend. At the time, I was overweight and my self-worth and confidence were shot. So, I didn't take up the bartending job. She didn't like how many people, especially girls, ended up liking me. Throughout the marriage, whenever my wife and I would go out drinking, she would always end up twerking on the wall or the floor and letting guys videotape her. She flirted with everyone and even had many of my close friends thinking I wanted a threesome with her. I don't drink often, but one Halloween I drank too much at a friend's party and ended up passing out and throwing up everywhere. While I was doing that, she was in the bathroom with guys showing her chest off for free coke and who knows what else. But she convinced me nothing happened and ended up making me think I was crazy, and that everyone else was wrong. Basically gaslighting me. I'm seeing a therapist now and I'm learning that basically she just needed attention from external sources nonstop. Getting it from her husband just wasn't enough. I know we all have issues and our marriage wasn't perfect. I know I still love her and care about her, but I won't be a back burner or second choice. I hate comparing how me and her are doing, but it makes me feel better right now. I have my own place, a dog, happy kids, my own vehicle, money, and I'm in a university. Even though I feel like complete garbage, I'm working through the emotion so I can fully move on and try to be at peace, whereas she is living with her mom with a broken car, no vehicle, asking me for money and living off CRB, COVID money, unhappy and depressed. She thought the grass was greener and found out that it wasn't. She is so afraid to be alone with her own thoughts that she still sleeps with her mom or the kids sometimes. When I have moved on, she will not have. I don't know if she will ever move on because she knows she made a mistake and is stubborn. In the end, I just don't know why she cheated and left, but continues to text me, had sex with me and told me how I'm doing so much better than her. It boggles the mind, but then again, how can you understand someone who doesn't even understand themselves? I'm doing well, but some weeks I just feel so much pain, like she pulled my heart out, shattered it and had sex with the other guy on top of the shattered pieces. Anyways, that's the story. There's so much more I could say in background that I could give, but I think this does it. Thanks for reading. Feel free to ask any questions or whatnot. It's a difficult time to get separated and cheated on, what with COVID happening at the same time. OP. Here are my thoughts on the situation. The best advice is to go no contact except for instances that involve the kids. You need to stop letting her in the house. When she wants to talk, cut her off and walk away. She's a cake eater. She wants her cake, her affair partner, and to eat it too, her domestic life. You're letting her hold on to that dream by even entertaining her. I know you still love her, but you admit you can't share her in your life, and that is exactly what you're doing. She can't give you what you need. Focus on yourself and your needs. Let's see what the comments had to say about the situation. Kat Solo said, "This woman has major mental issues. I think many here have mentioned going after custody of your kids because frankly, she's a mess. She has no self-control. She shows no ability to use good judgment. So allowing her to suck you in over and over is only prolonging the inevitable. You really need to just get her out of your life and mostly out of your kids' lives. As a woman, her behavior disgusts me. She is the type that gives so many of us a bad name. If she's willing to do what you said for free coke, God only knows what else she'd do. Best advice I can give you is to get a lawyer who can tell you how to quietly and smartly gain the information required to get your kids away from her. You will thank yourself for this later. You have to be smart, covert, and it may even take months to gather the info you require. But get a good lawyer and get that ball rolling. Your kids' mental well-being long-term is in the balance here." I agree with you, Kat Solo. Now let's get into today's second story. I don't know what I'm looking for by sharing this. I'm just lonely, sad, and disappointed. And maybe I just need some reassurance that I shouldn't consider taking her back. I've been together with my fiancé since the end of 2019. In my mind, things were going great. I proposed last year on a mountain near a waterfall and she said yes. We talked about what the wedding would be like and having children and all that. However, during our relationship, she became less interested in having sex, like from 1 or 2 times a day to 1 time a week or so. I hated that and tried to make things better. I was always careful with her and made sure she finished. She rarely reciprocated the things I always made sure to do. I hated that, but I accepted it. I am guilty because I'm not good looking and I'm a boring person. I'm a web designer and I usually end up staying up late working, and she woke up way sooner than I did because she was going to college at that time. She graduated last summer. I mention this because that was one of her common complaints, that I stayed up late and we didn't have the same schedule. I'm guilty of that indeed, and the fact that I haven't had many activities outside the internet. She is also kind of lonely. She doesn't have many friends, and in my mind, we were getting along great until this May, when a few days prior to my birthday, she told me she wanted to break up. I was devastated. For a week, she didn't say anything, and then she texted me that we had to talk and maybe sort things out because she wanted to get back with me. I forgot to mention that I moved in with her last year after I proposed around October. She told me that she was frustrated that I wasn't paying attention to her, and I wasn't helping her enough with the chores. That is true. I was also frustrated by the fact that she was never in the mood. She said it was because she just didn't feel the need to do it. I guess it was a vicious cycle. We talked, got back together, and sort of moved back to her place. However, in that particular period of time, she unintentionally hinted that she had been seeing someone during the week we were separated. I pushed her and she confessed that she had been going out with a guy but said she didn't do anything with him. I was mad, but oh, little did I know that it was worse than I could ever imagine. We got over it a few days ago. With the seed of doubt planted in my mind, she asked me to look for something in her purse. I found 2 packs of condoms, one open with one missing. I confronted her and she told me that she didn't remember, that she would never cheat on me, that they were old. However, the unopened pack was from 2020. I acted like I believed her, and maybe a part of me did. But yesterday, while cleaning her desk, I moved her mouse and the screen of the laptop turned on. I wanted to mention that never have I ever invaded the privacy of anyone, but given the last days, I needed answers. I read on her Facebook chats with a girlfriend of hers that indeed she wanted me back and she didn't do anything with him, even though she lied to me about how she met him. With a sigh of relief, I searched for the word sex in a conversation with another girl she was close to last year. I wanted to know what I was doing wrong, or why she didn't like it. Oh, and oh boy, did my world crash right there. The first result was from last year, where my fiancé described how hot her athletic colleague was, and how much she wanted him. It was a graphic description. The others described how she went to a coffee shop with him in a short skirt, and then she went to his house and had sex with him. That was during the months of April and May. I don't know how many times it happened. She said she was trembling and that he had sent her a couple of pictures and she couldn't refuse him. At that point, my hands were shaking and I felt sick. I went back even further, and she had talked to her about other guys she was talking to in March, and she said she was considering getting Tinder. I confronted her yesterday and she couldn't believe I found out. For half an hour, she kept saying she hadn't cheated on me until she started crying and got on her knees. She said that it was a mistake and that she loved me and wanted to marry me and have my children and all that. I got what I could carry of my things, packed them into my car and left. So I don't know why I wrote this. I feel heartbroken and destroyed. I really thought I would marry that girl. She is conservative and shy, but I wasn't alpha enough to get to see her true self. I have to hit the gym, I guess. I still can't believe it happened, but yeah, she keeps texting me that she doesn't want to leave me and she would do anything to get me back, and I'm grossed out by the fact that her two girlfriends encouraged this behavior, maybe because she was only telling them the bad things. A month after she cheated was one of their birthdays, so we got together with them and their boyfriends. So, I was probably in a room full of people knowing I got cheated on, and I had never a clue at that time. Thank you for reading if you got this far, and sorry for being chaotic in my writing. OP, you're doing everything right except for one thing: blaming yourself. You're a decent, honorable guy and you don't deserve this kind of treatment. Nobody does. Remember, she could have said no to the engagement. She could have come to you before breaking up and said that she wanted to date other people. She could have canceled the engagement at any time because of doubts. You're the innocent victim of her bad actions. Forget the alpha-beta crap. Good women stick with good guys. She's not a good woman. If you want a good woman, keep being a good guy, but maybe with a little more awareness next time. For now, do what makes you happy. Sports, working out, hobbies, reading, travel. Do all the things you always wanted to do in your life. Empty the bucket list. Your happiness will not start when you find the right woman. You'll find the right woman when you're happy and want to share it. I wish you the best of luck with your situation, OP. Thanks for taking the time to listen to today's stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and comment below on what your thoughts are on today's stories. If there's a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me.